Okay, so this is something that's worth documenting. This is the second time that we have come to this place, which is this beautiful riparian zone on a creek. The light shines good for about 7 meters, unfortunately. So it's a beautiful full moon tonight, full moon in Cancer, just after Christmas. What is it, the 27th today? So there was a number of storms that occurred yesterday and last night that made this area here flood. It would have been probably the third or fourth time it flooded in the last couple of weeks, but it was pretty big. A lot of water. This creek and then other multiple drains and other creeks that join into this, which all feed into the Brisbane River. There was a lot of water. So I did some filming last night, so I'm not going to go into all that kind of stuff so much now. Basically what this is about is stimulating the dogs for the type of dogs that they are, so that they are sane and so they are a much better dog for the human beings. Recognizing that they are hunting dogs, underground hunting dogs, that they come out into environments like this, or they traditionally came out into environments like this that were hard to get at, and they would go down little terrains like that and they would dig in. This is all flood damage. This is where the water level came up to. So the water's down there, just where it gets dark. Can you see it? So significant amount of water. It's a good 3.5 meters at least. Okay, so this is a bit more cumbersome, this video, because the light and the camera is not so great. There we go, so that's the water level there. Now it's pretty calm tonight, and last night was pretty calm up here. However, it was still moving fast and it's deep in the middle and there's a deep current. 4 male dogs that were with me last night fell in just a bit further down from here, and it was a bit stressful for a moment. There was a bit of panic, a bit of urgency for a moment because of what I'd seen further downstream, but then it was okay. And 2 of them got themselves out. They swam down further because there was a nice spot down further, and 2 of them needed to be rescued, the 2 youngest ones. But the 2 females that were with me did not make that mistake. They just knew better. Okay, so this is the stimulation that we can do in the city, basically. There's nothing here to catch and kill because huge amounts of water went through here. So if we traverse down here, we can see the damage that has been and the kind of landscape. So this could easily be a fox habitat or rabbit habitat, using the riparian zones of the waterways to live very well right amongst us, right under our noses. There wouldn't be any more after last night. However, if we come down through here, it's beautiful bush regeneration. Look at these beautiful trees. Really happy to have found this place. It's a great stimulation for them. And this is only somewhere that we can come after it's flooded. It's the middle of summer. You know, it's just after Christmas, or it's Christmas time. And this is all being washed away. So the night after it all being washed away is quite likely that there's not going to be anything here. So you see here it changes. So the water's found an easier path of least resistance slightly lower land from over there in the field. That's a soccer field there, and then other drains. There's a massive flood zone. And so you can see the water wasn't going through there so much, but here it's found its path, and nice, clean, very direct, straight off the edge. Down we go into the rest of the water that is all surging down that way. So it's massive. Okay, so I spoke enough of that. So the camera work and the lighting is not ideal. We just have to deal with it because I painstakingly tried to make it better. Puppies chewed through my LED lens head torch, and been in the dark really ever since. But such things are just luxuries. Alright, so we're regrouping now, and this is the point of making this particular video. Because of recognizing the type of dogs that they are in general and doing the work that I do, these are therapy dogs for soldiers, specifically bred for soldiers, but they are therapy dogs for anyone, but they've got an edge about them, so they're for soldiers that come back from war, dealing with the fact that they're a killer these days. These guys are always on guard, they're always ready to go. They're always defensive, protective, and ready to go on the offensive. They run towards fireworks and loud noises. Drunk people yelling. If there were some drunk people or people yelling, having fun on the other side of this 5-acre piece of land, then before these dogs had been well disciplined, this one especially, and this one would be barking and charging off into the darkness towards these raised voices. Same for fireworks. Now, Handsome, leave it. The big thing I was saying last night is about being able to call them off. Handsome, leave that. Leave it. Come. Leave it now. Leave it. Handsome, come. Leave it. Leave it. Voice works for me. Handsome, leave it. I said leave it. Got a bit of dashhound stubborn. All right, Handsome, sit. Sit. Come, Handsome, sit. Sit. Sit, buddy. Sit. Come, buddy. Sit. Good boy. Right, listen to me. You must leave those cane toads alone. You must, okay? That just sort of started last night, so we have to be on to that. Fortunately, they're not that interested in cane toads. We've been through that. So what I want to get across here is that the dogs missed out on Christmas, and for a few weeks leading up to Christmas, they were put aside. Even though they would go to places to be engaged as therapy dogs, the people would kind of just cast them aside and want them to be outside while they're inside doing other stuff and not engaging, not interacting. This is somewhere, I don't think this is exactly where they fell in, but something like this, and they couldn't get themselves back out, had to climb down there. The water was moving fast. It was quite a high intensity moment. Yes, it was further down there they fell in. So these very capable dogs, these two couldn't get out. This one was too smart to fall in to start with. Anyway, she's a strong swimmer. But the point is, this landscape here changes and it becomes city drains just down there, 150 meters. And so there's nowhere for the dogs to get out if they went past that point. Fortunately, the city infrastructure does provide a couple of safe points just downstream where they would be sure to get out. But tell you what, this fella learned his lesson. Well, actually no, after he fell into torrenting fast water further up in another stream, another drain stream that comes into this one. So it can be quite risky, you know. Plus where we were, if there had been more storms last night, further up the stream from here, like 2 suburbs away kind of thing, on the other side of a hill that I don't necessarily know about, then suddenly there could have been a 3.5 meter surge of water come down through where we were. And you know, there'd been like 7 storms or something, so it could quite easily have happened. But with that kind of tension and stress and pressure, then these dogs feel that kind of excitement, exhilaration, and they're more responsive by default. Naturally, they're already more responsive. They're more responsive to my voice. They stay closer. They come back immediately when they're called. And so again today, it's been very hot. They haven't really had that much engagement, even though there's been people. They're not really getting to engage with the people. It's very interesting to observe, but it's just the way it is, you know. That's how it is for Christmas. I have it on very good authority from the dear astrologer friend that the festive season won't really kick off until the 1st of January, when there's some changes in celestial bodies. So look out for that one if you see this before then. So I can be calm to film this, basically. Let my energy and my focus, my attention be drawn into filming and just talking about them and letting them be free, where I was not letting them be free here last night, where we had never been here before. So this kind of environment I would not let them go into anywhere else in the middle of summer, unless I had a long staff with me, and I'm very strict, keeping them very close to me and sweeping through everywhere. And that's the time it must be instant and impeccable, that they come when they're called and they leave anything that they find. So that log was just moving, I think, because this fella stood on it, but certainly got me attentive to that area. I think it should be pretty safe tonight. We're taking a gamble that it's still going to be pretty safe tonight to be here, that there's not really going to be anything here. There was not a single scent trail that they picked up on that I saw last night in our expedition. Not one single scent trail. Normally after rain you find 3 or 4 scent trails in any little area. They have a sniff around and then look back up a tree again, and then off they go. If you want a reliable dog, if you want a steadfast dog, if you want a consistent dog, a devoted, loyal, capable dog that will be that capable dog for you, on your side, then this is what you got to do for them. But they very much know, they're very clearly aware of the fact that they're out here now for them. And last night was very big about making it up to them that they had to be locked inside and they weren't allowed to come to family Christmas, or to all the Christmas engagements, and then all the human engagements pretty much leading up to Christmas. For the last 3 weeks they've really been just cast aside. They've had to be left out, but they're therapy dogs. So we go and interact with people, but then they're not doing what they're always done. And just everything else just in modern life. So to allow them to come and have this kind of experience and exploration, you know, it's like when one is tired, the day is finished. We arrived here at midnight tonight. Can't remember what time it was last night, but it wasn't about 4 o'clock in the morning till we got home. And this is what we do. And because we do that, the dogs are with me, they work with me during the day. And they've been lacking this for the last few weeks, which is just so out of the ordinary for the way that we live, the life that I ensure that I give them. And you know, this fellow, he just turned a year old, so he's a year and 2 weeks old. This fella, he's 9 months old. So they really need consistency, and they try really hard to show that they're good dogs, and they're very much attentive to human beings, incredibly. And they just want very simple pleasures in life. To be able to stop, sniff the grass like that. To be able to go over there, back to where he just was, and sniff the grass again and have a look around and just pause for a moment. Maybe cock his leg, or maybe not, maybe come over here and cock his leg. So these are working dogs as well. Trying to get work in this kind of environment with city councils, but they seem to prefer using 1080 poison bait instead. So we'll keep working on that one. But from $150 as a starting rate, depending on where you are and what your needs are. If you have rabbits or foxes or any other feral animals giving you any trouble, damaging property, then these guys will displace them at the very least and disturb them, so that if they do continue to exist, then they will be less likely to want to hang around at your place. And that doesn't need to be taught to them at all. This is a kind of behavior that just needs to be allowed to express. I thought she was chasing after a lizard or something there, but she's just following a scent trail, I believe. Unless there is some movement going with that. I'd say there probably is, yes. So we get to do this kind of stuff in places like this. It's basically just the same as the back garden. Sniffing out skinks in between the roses. But it's very different. It's got a lot more texture to it. It's got a lot more contrast. It's got a lot more so this is where dogs swim to free themselves. Must have been that one there. So it's okay for them to swim around down there because it opens up into a wide flood kind of plain area, which must be so that the debris can be collected there. Just chasing ducks and water hens here now, but they've lost them. The ducks actually dived, and they're looking around everywhere else, but they're actually under the water. Yes. Hours of fun. That's the only native animals they're actually allowed to chase after is the ducks out on the water, but no chance of catching them. So we're getting a large degree of stimulation here because of the sniffing, the foraging, fossicking, exploring, working together. And there's two different prey drives in my opinion. There's a prey drive which is for prey, and that's pretty straightforward as we know it to be in the animal kingdom, and as we see in dogs. But then there's the quarry drive. That's for the kind of things that fight back, that is in their genetic history, what they've been bred to engage with and what their life was. You know, go back 400 years, these guys be going out nearly every day looking for foxes or badgers, wouldn't they? They'd be catching our dinner for us 5 nights a week. So this was moving very, very fast last night. But you see just how relaxed I can be. I'm hardly focusing on the dogs at all, because we were here last night under such potentially risky circumstances that now, visiting here immediately after the second night with clear skies, calm conditions, and having that discipline, having the control over them to be able to call them back. So there could be anyone up there. There could be another dog up there, come around the corner, someone going for a late night jog with their dog. So a dog comes running around the corner with a person running at them. So then they're all going to be barking, charging at them. I can call them off that. Or they could find a cat. When we pulled up here, there was a cat. And so I drove up to see if it was a feral cat or a domestic cat. I think it's domestic cat, a reasonable distance from home. The dogs saw it, so I had to mess around, drive around the car park in different directions and stuff, so they weren't so focused on it. Find a feral cat here. This is a freeway, busway, and that's 2 freeways and the busway. And we've got a busway station, we've got other roads up there. There's like 6 or 7 roads, and then another 5, 6, 7 bike paths come off here. Then the sports field. So you find feral cats around here in these drains and stuff. Then hopefully they run into the drains. This whole area was underwater. We found the dogs went into the water. It was all nice and calm here, but they came very close over here, and it was going very fast. They could not seem to tell that there was a lot of imminent danger. After the water went down, we were able to see that there's actually a deep drain here, and it's very shallow there. So the suction from about that point here into that would have been incredible. And from this point on, there's not really anywhere for these guys to have been able to get out again last night. If they went into the rushing water from here, downstream that way, then they had this immediate 50 meters here to get out, and then after that there was nowhere. It's just like that. There's nowhere to get out. So very dangerous potentially. Just go see, we've got fish up here. This is Norman Creek, so it feeds to the Brisbane River, so you technically could get all those estuary kind of fish all the way up here. The other thing is that there's enough long grass, choose spots where it parks, so that if they get wet and dirty, and go through mud, etc., or dirty water, then they have to run through wet, long grass before they get back in the car. So they're pretty much clean by the time they get back in the car with their double weatherproof coat. So with all the rambling on about all different kinds of things that are only relevant to this kind of relationship with these kinds of dogs, if you happen to have that kind of relationship, even just seeing how relaxed, how calm it can be. So they're scattered. There's 3 over there, 2 here. And I couldn't even tell you where the other one is. Which normally I don't ever find myself in such circumstances. I don't even know the direction yet, so he's behind, so he was further down. So that there is the testament, really, of what I'm trying to get across in this 25 minutes of, I admit, terrible video and terrible lighting, and not really the best commentary. It's actually been a stress. The biggest stress for me lately, and with the whole Christmas thing and everything, is that I've got to lock the dogs inside and then leave them and go and do this stuff with people, which is what they're all about. And then I feel like they possibly feel like they're being punished, but at the very least they are missing out. So the response to them missing out and not having their needs met prior to missing out, or then after, or if it happens frequently, then that's a recipe for a maladapted dog and a poor relationship. A dog is not going to do what he's told all the time. They're going to run out the gate because they're not getting to go for their walk when they want to go. So they'll charge through the gate under your feet, straight across the road, and they won't come back when they're called. Or they'll be out and you're having fun, but it's time to go. And then they'll realise that, we're going back to the car. Well, no, I'm not going back to the car. I don't want to go. And what else can they do? They can only express themselves and still be a devoted companion by going and lying in the park and looking at you and not coming when they're called. And you have to go over and pick them up and carry them. And they think that they're going to get in trouble. That's a call for help. So I better go now. And so I did have a feeling of pushing it a little bit too far. But I'm sure it'll be fine because I think he's just stuck on the other side. I had a good look at this whole landscape under very dangerous conditions. So I'm not too fussed. But yes, that is now outside of the best practice, so I will wrap it up here. Once we just find what the issue is, What is the issue? My goodness gracious me. We've got 3 boys. Looks like we're stuck in quicksand, are we? Oh no, we can move. So this is a bit of a difference in intelligence. Between the male and female, I can't help but notice. These guys should be smarter than this. However, I am pleased to see that they're not going to risk going across that, because they can easily swim across that. But for whatever reason, they're not going to swim across that water, which is moving at absolute snail's pace compared to what it was when we were here last night. So that's good. This is the lessons learned. Back this way, come. So we'll come back down here and we'll cross over and we'll continue to traverse this wonderful landscape whilst we have the opportunity to. Now that I brought them here, we spent quite a few hours out here last night, exploring everywhere, forensically evaluating the flood damage and the sheer force and volume of the water and the time frames of how it must have come up and then come down, and the wonderful infrastructure, the foresight of this infrastructure. Could be so much better, but this is quite amazing that this was built back when it was, and this city is able to be terraformed around the waterways. So you see there's quite a bit of pace here. As it slows down and we go the gradient down, there's quite a bit of pace. So it's good to see that the dogs are able to sense that now, and they didn't want to cross it. That pleases me, because that was a lesson that was a little bit concerning, that they needed to learn under those conditions. I mean, we're accustomed to flood water, we're accustomed to fast moving water, we're accustomed to changing conditions, we're accustomed to high pressure scenarios, high risk. That being said, these concrete straight edges like that, they change the way that water moves. And we do have some really wondrous, unique occurrences due to the concrete and these waterways that are drains like this. So the light's fading. Between this LED light and the camera sensor, hasn't been so easy to really show what's going on. See how calm they are? They're not going off, they're not making heaps of noise, they're not totally excited and undisciplined. They would have been a few days ago because of just the way things had been. Hasn't helped with this hot weather. So as it just moseys on down that way, he's just sort of fading out of frame. So this duck is not concerned that there's 6 dogs salivating over him or her. It's irrelevant. They'll just dive underneath the water, disappear, and then pop up behind them. And they can stay under the water for minutes, so they're fine. And if they ever do get flanked by a couple of dogs, then they just take flight. They're gone. But what we will find is if there was a partner for this duck, if this duck was in danger from multiple directions, and the other one would fly in and swoop them and then come and land in the water behind them. So this is kind of what we have, we have these prey animals and then we have these predator animals. And then we have these other animals like this that are an apex predator that has been turned into a special forces soldier. Like this one here, imagine 30 of them. Discipline will only work so far with these dogs, is what I'm trying to get across. Like, they must do what they're told. They must come when they're called. There's only a few commands, very simple, but they must do what they're told. Come on guys, over this side, come on, this way. Come on here. Come on, up here. Come on, come on. You can do it, come on. I won't allow them to be so separate from me again. That was actually quite careless. Let's consider I'm just doing that for the demonstrative purposes. So this is how we do it. So we're just going to retrace the steps. Whatever it is, if we walk softly, then we can just retrace our steps, walking softly. And that is literally what we're doing. We're walking softly. Normally I'll be picking that up. I'll come back to that. If you see rubbish out there, pick it up. Even if you get your hands dirty, pick it up. If it was money, you'd pick it up, so pick it up. This would have been a teeming paradise with life of all kinds once upon a time, not that long ago. But now, not much lives here, unfortunately. So tomorrow it will be very hot again. These guys will not want to do anything. They'll want to, I won't even see them unless I need to go somewhere, and then eventually they'll all appear. It'll take 20 minutes to get them in the car ordinarily, but because of doing this tonight, then they might be in the car within 2 minutes tomorrow, and we'll be going on our way. The other thing is we went and picked up a huge supply of fresh meat and bones, just butchered today. 3 different animals. Okay, so I got these guys back. This is kind of how it goes, and this is why I do it, you see. The same as when they go and get in the mud just before you get in the car. So I've got these 2 back, and now I've got the other 4 on that side. So we'll just walk softly back where we just walked softly and let them regroup. I am very pleased that, sorry, the camera's terrible. I'm very pleased that they are not even going to risk swimming across that moderate current down there tonight. Very pleased. That shows the intelligence can be exponentially more than what it was the night before. If they manage to survive a hairy situation, then they are a lot more intelligent from that point after. Not just for that situation, but in general, for everything that could possibly be related to it. And also, this fella kind of gets that maybe he should just stick with the program, follow my lead. So any dog needs this, doesn't matter what kind of dog they are. But if you have a dachshund or a terrier, particularly a Jack Russell or a Patterdale Terrier, Australian Terrier, any terrier really. Terrier is earth dogs. They go under the earth. So they'll disappear into spaces like that. This is what they're naturally inclined to do. They see a space like that, they're gone into it. And then if there's a burrow there, they're under the burrow, down there in it, engaging with what's in the burrow, either holding it there till it's dug to, or chasing it out a back door so that the sight hounds waiting outside can chase it down if there's not a net waiting for it, or they fight under the ground and kill it in its own burrow under the ground. So the sheer power of the water here and the volume. And it's quite remarkable because the gradient of the land dictates the force and the direction of this flow of huge amounts of water going at incredible velocity, incredible force. Like it's consistent on that side because of the concrete, but here it tapers up, it steps up and then tapers up, and so you can watch it increase just by millimeters. And let's say centimeters, and you can see how the grass changes direction of where it was flattened to go back. So that's where the water was flowing with that direction, that force. And that is absolutely mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. The amount of force that has gone through here and then subsided again. And so technically it is a risk that that could happen again now while we're here in this creek. I think we've got another dog. There's another terrier dog that's smelling us. We're just gonna wrap it up. Alright, hip to me, hip! Come back, hip! Hip, hip, okay. Alright, quiet, stop. Quiet. Quiet. Sit, everyone sit. Regroup. Sit. Come here. Sit down. Where's everyone? Sit. I said sit. Sit. Thank you. Sit. Handsome. Bufo. Where's Boxer? Move. Sit, Bufo. Boxer, come to me. Alright, sit. Alright, be quiet. Quiet, Mumu. Mumu, I said be quiet. Let me see what's going on. Mumu, you're on camera. You're on display. Mumu, listen to me. Listen to me. We want to know what's going on. Be quiet. Right, so, Mumu, be quiet. I want to hear what's going on. Okay, so they're growling and looking in this direction over here. However, it sounded like there was yelling coming from that direction. don't think that was my dog that was crying. Okay, so that's pretty much common practice for her, especially in public. Now you notice that they're all facing different directions. This is a natural thing. So we have every direction except for that one cover, which I'm facing that way. This is vitally important. A lot of people are so impressed. Wow, it's so impressive that you can have this kind of control. Well, if you don't have this kind of control, you don't have any control at all. Really, if I'm doing a YouTube video about this kind of stuff, then I should have had them absolutely impeccable, and I should not have had such uncontrolled circumstances to start with. The point that I'm trying to demonstrate is, if you meet the dogs where they're at, and treat them as the kind of dogs that they are, and you come out specifically to do this kind of stimulation at the end of the day when you're tired and worn out and you've got to get up tomorrow and deal with tomorrow in the human world, then they know that you're doing this for them, and they respond. They're reliable. So that somebody's singing along to music up there on the road. Are you familiar with this kind of yap in suburbia? And how long it goes on for before it's quietened down? Well, I would say that these dogs have been very close to us for thousands of years, and they would be extremely responsive and extremely well disciplined when told to be quiet by their master. And they get with the program. If you're barking and making all that noise, then I can't hear what I want to hear, what I'm trying to listen for. And so I don't know what's out there, what's going on. And we don't necessarily need to give away our position, as we are warrior hunting dogs. But that's the other important point I'll finish with, is that they bark. Guaranteed they'll bark. So I was demonstrating how quiet they were when they were just stalking the duck. But when it comes to engaging, this is the kind of thing that shows up. We need to be very careful. When it comes to something that is worth sounding the alarm for, like any dog would, or when it comes to something that is worth paying attention to as a hunting dog, then guaranteed they will bark. And so I can let them have the freedom in situations like this where it must be 1 o'clock in the morning. We can see long ways when we're in the open field, and I know what's down there and they can't get up on the other side. So it's quite contained. I was using this park there, which you can't see very well. So there's a path there that comes down into a 5-ways, and so we were down lower than that. I could see when there was people walking up, so I would contain the dogs because they hadn't been out for a while. Not into a scenario like this, and we'd never been here. I didn't know what the scenario was. I remember that was about close to 11 o'clock or something, so you could still quite easily find people walking their dogs. And if somebody walks their dogs here every night and they get to this point and they let their dog off lead, and suddenly these 6 dogs encounter a German Shepherd sprinting up to them, or 2 black Labradors sprinting up to them, and then just checking them out. Just that can be a very intense situation, even still these days. Tends to not happen, but it's a lot of training to get us to that point. And so that's why I've spoken for 50 minutes now. So a stop like this, I'm just giving them time. I can see them. You can't see them on the screen because this light's no good for it. And the camera keeps adjusting settings, so when I shine bright light over there, then it makes the screen dark, so it's terrible. But here's Handsome. He's at my feet. This is the demonstration that you have. This is how they are all the time. And when you specifically come out and do these excursions for them, then that's like 150 times more of a gesture than including them in your life and taking them with you everywhere you go, or everywhere that you can possibly take a dog, and just adjusting your life so that you can take them. So it's particularly calm. I was standing in this field looking at the full moon and noticing how calm it was, because we're back in the place that we had been here last night for the first time. We know the particular circumstances relevant for here and now, being the flooding, so there's very little chance of engaging and finding anything and engaging with it, particularly sliding reptiles, because this is the other thing, like they're cooped up and they're missing out on this hunting stimulation, because I'm not taking them into environments where they are at risk of encountering something that is either going to try and eat them and would have no worries in at least killing it, or one that would be underneath the ground. So that's why we're here, because I hypothesize that the likelihood of finding anything alive in that riparian zone there, which you can't see, last night was 0. I mean, there's some insects and stuff, but yeah, I think that was too much water for too long with such incredible force that anything that didn't get out of its way already, well, it perished. But I may be wrong. There was not one single scent trail that they followed, and they follow scent trails all the time, everywhere. So you see, it's worth calculating everything, weighing everything up in life, and then prioritizing this at the end of the day on the way home. So even if they had a great day and was satisfied with the stimulation that they had and didn't think that they needed any further stimulation, then this would still be something that I'd go out of my way to do with these circumstances. To come back here tonight while the water is clean and flowing while we have some familiarity and while we know that there's extremely little chance of encountering anything that might be a risk. I haven't been able to do this for quite a while. Basically, we do these simulations, these exercise simulations, and everything for the last few months has been an exercise simulation. It hasn't been real. And this is just an exercise simulation as well. This is not real. But if we encounter a fox, then I'll track it. And if we encounter a feral cat, then it can get pretty real pretty quick. But always call them off, and call them off anything, so long as I'm there. Okay, so I'll wrap it up there. This again, would never be doing this, but this is because I've got that trust, got that familiarity and comfort. Razzle, this way. And because, and there we go, off into the bushes, so there was something there, there was movement down there. So just worked out that this path must be here. Elvis is after a tawny frogmouth. So here's another path. I wonder where that goes. That might go underneath that bridge. Either way, where that goes, that's going towards roads, so we don't want to go that way. And we'll wrap it up there. So just leave it film rolling now, so you can see the barking. That's an alarm bark from Elvis. And yeah, so there's birds flying around there. And quite often you hear this alarm bark at their own members. They're approaching from a different direction, coming down a hill, around the corner through some trees. You know, like they're ready for action. They're ready to go. There's no jumping back and working out what's going on. It's turn and ready to go. Okay, so that's for just to demonstrate. I knew this was a branching period. This is where the water was rushing. I did this whole forensic examination. Phenomenal amount of water. So it went in like 7-8 different directions in order to come very gently turning back around to then go directly back down into the creek over there. And then it joins up to another creek. This is essentially just a drain, it seems. There's Norman Creek, must be further down there, and this is a drain that just takes the stormwater. And so the water was actually flowing up to here, and you see this gradient of the land here. Can't really tell. Can we tell it goes down? Anyway, it's not much of a gradient, and then you see it goes up there. So that's a gentle gradient, but it's gentle to this point here, and then it starts to go up more. suppose it's there. That's gentle, but see, it's more gentle here, and it's not so gentle there. So that gives the water this opportunity to come out here under a lot of force after being sent in 5 different directions at least, and then it can't go any further. So it just turns around with that gentle gradient, allows it to come up and flows down here, but this one turns back and torrents. These currents that just torrent phenomenal amounts of water with phenomenal amounts of force behind it, and it's gone as quickly as it came. So there could have been homeless people down here, for instance. You know, like you see, some people seem to have the common sense to come and find a nice natural spot to lay their head at night instead of urban concrete jungles. Like in there you can find all kinds of, I would imagine, like I see this kind of environment, but once you understand foxes, for instance, there could quite easily be a fox den in there and you would not even know. Here's the other spot. So all that water came from all of that, which you can't see. There's a massive drain there, opens right up. All of this water can come into this one area up there. That tree kind of, it flows up there, and it must be higher here but lower there. So instead of forcing all this down the path of least resistance, just allowed it to flow all the way through there. And you have this corridor that must have been at least 4 feet tall just there and 2 feet wide, and the force that must have been coming through there was phenomenal. And so that's going different direction. It's coming from southeast going northeast, and then that's come south. It's come going up to, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's southeast going northwest, and then this part that's going northwest up there, and then this one's gone northeast, and then it's come straight back southwest, west southwest, and then come through into here, sort of basically hitting this tree here, so gushing there, having current come from the other side in there, pushing out this way, while this current comes across, basically hits this tree and spirals back around whilst it's being forced from up here. You get this spiral effect, and it forces it straight back, due east, straight across. But it gets then forced here, it gets met here and then forced that way, because there is already over here, God knows how much water with God knows how much velocity and pressure. You see, coming from here, we've got this shooting across and coming down here, while straight up here shooting across and blasting up there and forcing through a narrow path again up into here. So all of that water is moving, and then we get these paths of least resistance, so these little corridors that are a bit lower, and the water just flows through there, forces like jets. And then as we come up to here, you see it's blasting along here, but there's already so much water up the back there that is going to come back down, because this hill is going to tighten up. See that there? That could easily be a fox den. So easily. And you wouldn't even know if that had been a fox den, because it'd all be washed away now and there'd be no scent. So you see here then there's massive amounts of water. Massive amounts of water. All coming together. All coming together here. And it was probably up to my head height at least, I imagine. I can't even calculate how much water that would be, and I can't calculate the anything remotely near the amount of newtons that it would be flowing at, just simply with gravity. This thing is, that just exists. It wasn't like there was more gravity to make this happen. It was just the gravity made the water run downhill. Phenomenal. And then it's the landscape and the conditions. So this is where it all came together. All that water up there all came together and then flowed through that flood zone and just walked up. But then it came from this side. You can see that it came out. It's going this way. So northeast. And it continues northeast to a point where then it bends from over there very directly back to northwest. However, what's occurring in here is this must be a bit higher. It's not getting so much flow. Down here it's a bit lower. So it's very flat. It's very direct that it is coming from south, southwest, north, northeast, back to there. So it's north, northeast, then it's going north. You can't really see it, but there's a very gentle gradient turning around. I'll come a bit closer. So going north, south, southwest, north, northeast, then here it comes to north, and then it turns to northwest. Very gently. Very gently. It's quite beautiful. Quite beautiful. I don't think human beings could create such a beautiful pattern. Then we have all that debris there. There's quite a lot more than what the light is showing, so there's a lot of force. And so from there, that's northwest, and then it's turning. You can see here, like, see how it turns in. It turns in, it takes a direction. And so that's going straight back in the northwest, and right there, must be about 15 meters, 20 meters at most in that direction, that it then drops back down into the creek. And that's where it actually joins the other creek that is running from there. So then the fork occurs just after that. So I'd say there's a lot of engineering going into building that bridge down there. And this is a great opportunity. And I might do this over the next 2 or 3 days, and then I won't do it again until immediately after flooding. Because it's just not worth the risk. And so I just have to put a disclaimer again to remind you, if anybody decides that they want to follow this kind of way of engaging with their dogs and giving their dogs a stimulation. It's not like this where you can just be on the phone and not focused on them. This is only to show that once you get to a certain point with the dogs, then you've got to consolidate and keep that bond and that relationship, keep that working dynamic strong and congruent, so that you are very clearly working together on the same team and you've got each other's back, and there's no need for disciplinary action or restriction or restraining. I've had to use tone of voice with this fella and with this one a lot because they're pups, but there was a change in their lifestyle, particularly that fella's lifestyle. There was a change. Well, in both of them, there was a big change in their lifestyle, and they've got dynamics going on between the two of them. It's So that's one thing going on. And there's all kinds of politics and social dynamics going on, because we have all kinds of different relationships and all kinds of different circumstances. This is what we do. This is why I breed these dogs and use them for what I use them for, because they've got the ability to bridge all of those worlds. But this is what they need. They need to be able to come out here, run around, get all hot so your tongue's hanging out, even though there's all this fresh water that you can go and drink, and then find the right spot and go and lie down in there. And that's fine, because there's lots of long wet grass to walk through before we get back in the car, even if that water's dirty. And they get much dirtier water than this, and they don't stink by the time they get back in the car. As far as filming is concerned, for showing the environments of what is the best kind of environment, what is an ideal environment, then I came to this environment after I flattened my batteries last night and painstakingly filmed with this terrible light, tried to do a few shorts, a few longer ones, and then I came to this environment and didn't bother filming because it's just too painstaking. But this is actually, since I'm still filming and rambling on, which is just because I'm giving the dogs the time. So you see, you get this massive drain there, and then there's water coming. There's water coming from up there, which is all fading. So we have this, there's 4 drains there. So it must be a massive water course. Okay, so this is the height of it as it's flowing up. This kind of gradient stops the debris from flowing out and from going down there. It spreads the debris out, slows the water down. But there was so much water coming through here. Basically, it must have been up to that height there, because there was a lot of flooding up there on top of that. Up here. So there was a lot of water coming from somewhere to flow down through here into this creek system, which is different to that drain system. Isn't that beautiful? I'd say that was ripped off by water. So this is all flat. Oh, not really. The camera's picking up hardly anything compared to what the eye sees, even though the light's shining on it. So it's very flat there. That's all running in one direction. I was up here, I did find there was some spots where the water was flowing down from this hill into the creek, and it was significant. So you get little bits just rushing in there. Most of it is rushing along that way, so I might be mistaken, it might be further down. The landscape is all very different tonight. Incredibly different. So okay, so there's a lot of water running down there either way, in that direction. And so further down here, yeah, I got my bearings wrong. So it was down here. So whatever has been demonstrated as the ideal hunting ground or simulation ground in the city to engage your earth dogs that are understimulated in apartment blocks and suburban backyards, and put aside when there's human engagements. Even though they think they're human, they are part human. So see here now, the water has been flowing from that direction, from southeast, basically south. Okay, and then it flows here. It's flowing directly from the east, so it's coming directly from there. The drains are over there, so this is coming from here. It's not coming from there. So all that water is flowing down there, and then there's something gushing it this way, and here is going that way. So it's going northwest, and then it's hitting here, whilst this one's going directly across. This is the pace that we have 24 hours later. I don't know what it is normally. It's incredible. All this water falls down, runs into the creek, and then runs into the river. It runs into the ocean. Okay, so this was really flowing fast last night. Now in this scenario, so I don't really want them going in there because I don't know what that's... Okay, so that starts to open up down there into just what looks like a normal creek without concrete infrastructure and all of that. And there's houses up there, not too far away actually, so it mustn't flood too far here. But I would not want them to go in the water there because it may not be so easy for them to get out. And where they couldn't get out last night, where they fell in, that was mud. That was just slippery mud. Tell you what, I'm glad that I didn't go in, but there was no chance that I was going in there because I just transformed myself to match the land. So here, the water's gone back the other direction, so there seems to be some spiraling occur here. So a lot of turbulence is flowing in all kinds of different directions. With a lot of force, a lot of volume. Very suddenly came up. Huge force, huge turbulence, huge disruption to everything. And then gone as quick as it came. Now last night these guys didn't even want to walk over this. So they're having a sniff now. Last night they weren't even interested in walking up over all of this stuff by the time I got here because, well, from what I imagine, there was no stimulation, there was no scent trails. It was all flat, quite a bit flatter than this. But they just had no interest. They just stayed on the edge. Now they go have a look. So you see the way they're moving in. This is just not something that I'll let them do in summertime. Just not. It's just not something that they're allowed to do. It's just not a risk that I will take. And because I have NexGuard Spectre is the only reason that they can come out and do this. I wouldn't have dogs in Australia otherwise, because of ticks. So very calm. If we come back here in a week, there'll be all kinds of different scent trails, I'm sure. And the grass will have grown, it will have stood up again. There will have been all kinds of activity come through here. So they won't necessarily be so quiet and calm just on this first inspection, you know what I mean? And so there's a nice little promontory down here that looks like you probably wouldn't have been able to get to, but because it's been flattened, it kind of can get to it now. And it's absolutely beautiful. Great place to come and make a home, at least for a little while, if you're homeless. Got less chance of being hassled. And you can always be guaranteed of availability immediately after flash flooding. So maybe if you just kept a kayak tethered to you at all times, then you could live a pretty relaxed life out here. Okay, so it's quite beautiful. So this here is an experience that they would not have had ordinarily. And how many other dogs do you know of that will get this kind of experience living in Brisbane City? Well, we don't live here technically. We're all over the place. But I want to do a lot of work rehabilitating other people's dogs and trying to train the humans associated with those dogs that you can do this kind of stuff. This is what it was for me. This is where I met a dog that was having trouble, did some research about it, found a hunting dog multiplied by a hunting dog, Dachshund Jack Russell, Earth dog, Earth dog, wow, and devised all kinds of different exercises all along the lines of this to stimulate the dog